Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Riff Raff podcast. I'm Limina, and this is my co-host David. Hey, David.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, yeah, not too bad. Still cold. We got another hit of winter here.
Yep, here too.
Yeah,
Jesus.
I'm a little over it. I'm holding solace that all the willow is changing color, and clearly the sap is starting to run. But that another foot of snow was really not what I wanted.
I like what you say about sapping because you're right. If one wanted to dabble, and we've dabbled once or twice, we got a few bits and pieces, the things you hammer into the trees.
Yep.
Yeah, now's the time if anybody would like to dabble.
Yeah. Before we go on, today we're talking about seeds and soil at the beginning of planting your gardens, which I'm excited to be into because I'm exhausted by the fight this week. You know what I mean? By the technocracy and the powers and trying to disengage. So it just really, to me, makes me excited to talk about something that we can do for ourselves without engaging that. But before we go on, I just wanted to say that next Sunday, I'm going to be having a fellow named Andre on my show, the Human Responsibilities Tribunal. I'll probably rebroadcast to the Riff Raff. We're going to be talking about the disintegration of family, like how that was purposeful, the layout of that. But more importantly, I've been really interested in how do we put this back together? Like, let's say you start talking to your kid or your aunt or your grandma again. There's a lot of hard feelings, particularly over the last 6 years. How do we put that back together? So Andre and I are going to be exploring that. And we're not going to be exploring that in a huge mental illness type way, but just in a human type way. So that's great. And then you had a subject coming up on your podcast, your separate one, the Freedom Convo podcast, exploring 15-minute cities. And I'm going to be interested in that. So when is that one happening?
March 6th.
Yep. Okay. What time? Do you know?
Oh, and with Ian Davis, he did a deep dive, we'll just say, into the whole concept of what is a 15-minute city, and that is the title of the essay we will look at. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, anyway, he's in the UK. I forget the time. I think it's 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Anyway, it'll be up on my channel. It'll have it up anyway.
Okay, I'm excited to hear that because those 15-minute cities, they sound great, but nobody tells you the prison is, when they put you in a prison of your own mind, that it's going to be a prison, right? All medicine has been designed to taste good, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Looking forward to learning more about it, really, because everyone talks about, 15-minute cities are coming, and I'm like, what even is that? I mean, I guess.
And are we already mostly there, right? That's my thing. Is sometimes I think back and I think we should have been talking about this in the 90s, right? But because I like Edmonton in Alberta has already been broken up into those separate city components. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're looking at that, so that's interesting, and that's exactly the charge of your motorized car. Also interesting. But anyway, so that is stuff that's really overwhelming. Let's talk gardening, David, because you and I have already started planning, not only planning our gardens, but having some actions that we've already done. So I've got some seeds in already under my grow lights. So I'll just show you that. And so there's, and I usually have about 8 by the time 8 of these trays started by the time April rolls around. Last year I planted all 8 at once and it was a big kerfuffle going in. So why don't we start there? Like, let's say you want to start some seeds early. I overdid it last year. I planted them all at once. And then everything was ready at once, which was overwhelming. Everything was ready too early to go into the gardens, which was also stupid because I had nowhere to put things. So why don't we start there on like planning?
Well, everybody wants to have a garden. It's just a thing. And it's funny. I was looking for some images, like to do a little ad. So I just typed into Google gardening and then images, and it was all smiling AI human pictures, Granny and the baby, and the sun is shining down, and they're all smiling. And I was like, what are all these weird, fake, and mostly AI images of all this great happiness? I was looking for like a cool, rustic backyard garden of like your usual serious gardener. And anyway, so that was just one thing I observed, unrelated perhaps to the topic at hand. But planning, well, gee whiz, there's a lot that goes into it. For me, the first thing that comes to my mind would be, what is your motivation? And are you really prepared, and do you understand the level of motivation may be required to be successful? And how much do you want? I mean, these are the first two things that come to mind. And do you have space?
How much time do you have?
Yeah,
space and time, yeah.
How's your health? How's your back? Yeah.
Yeah, and can it be made better? So, I mean, I guess my thing too is like putting in a nice like practice for being able to like, I like that you say that, because I was thinking just the yoga squat that you do is like, start practicing that now, right? Start practicing that now, where you can balance on your heels and your feet and stay there for a while. But even if your health is bad, it could be made better by doing these things, right? So
somebody 25 might be listening. They're good to go.
Yeah.
No
yeah,
problem.
nothing makes you feel like you're old, like being old. I just had a birthday. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And gardening sure makes you feel old.
It can do, but I think it also does a lot for your health, like just having the soil on your body and those bacteria, and reseeding your skin, with natural bacteria, I think is pretty cool. So soil, I want to talk to you about something I did that was really stupid. And I've done lots of stupid things in my tenure of gardening, but here's one thing I want to say to people is, when you get a bag of soil to start your seeds inside, or even repot your plant, cook, soak, or do something to that soil to kill those little fucking black flies that live in that soil. Because no matter what bag you get, you think it's a new bag, that is going to introduce some bug into your house. So what I've started doing last year, before that, I just cooked my soil in my oven in a big tray at 200 degrees for about a half an hour, and I wet it down and sprayed it, because getting those bugs out of your house once they're in, and they don't stay in your seed tray. So if you have potted plants in your house, they're everywhere, and then they can also breed in your drains and what have you, and it gets to be a huge mess. So I would like my first point to be, before you even put a seed in your soil, let's sterilize your soil. So you could do it a few ways. You could do it with diluted peroxide and let that soak. You can make sure you water once you're in there with a little peroxide in your water. You can cook your soil in your oven, or what I've started to do is pressure cook it in my Instapot.
Well, what do you mean by soil? Are you talking potting soil?
Yeah, like let's say you get potting soil for your trays, right?
Yeah.
To start your seeds,
or
potting soil. Yep. For even just a house plant, because all those house plants now, especially if you have Home Depot, just look at the amount of flies that are flying over top of their plants there. You're introducing that into your house in every plant.
I have no flies. Right? I have no flies. I don't know about this fly. I mean, maybe sometimes there's some stuff, but we're doing okay. Our seedlings are okay so far. And maybe we do get them. I'm just forgetting, but yeah, I don't know about these bugs. But you have major issue? Little black flies?
Every time I get introduced, and then you'll see the black flies. So now I've started disinfecting the soil before I even plant. I disinfect house plants before I get them. Like I'll take them out of the pot and wash them down to the root and leave that soil outside, and then introduce new disinfected soil. Because once they're in, they're really hard to get out.
I do clean my trays. I just washed them in the bathtub a couple of weeks ago. I have a shelf system, just your classic rack you might see in any kitchen or something. Yeah, the kitchen rack, made of metal, a good one, with lights hanging on each down. So maybe 5 levels. So that's pretty sweet. You can put a lot up in there. So I have two levels only in use right now.
Yeah. Grow lights sure have gotten more affordable, hey?
Yeah, we ordered them. I mean, there's an investment. That's one thing. This feels luxurious because this is a little bit of a new investment for us to have a real nice, like a metal thing on wheels that moves around with all of our lights finally in place. So we were jerry rigging things out of wood, and we're not carpenters over here.
Yeah,
for a long time. So yeah, you have it on your counter. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like
that's not my kitchen counter though. That's my laundry room, so I can keep the cats out of there and stuff. So I just end up where I usually fold laundry. I just mount them with tape underneath, and then so there's room for a few trays. Those are just the ones that I've started. The other thing that I've learned is like actually using that little plastic topper is really good if you don't. So you don't over or underwater it.
I don't know about these domes. I don't use domes.
I do.
Because I worry about, things like bugs. I don't know. Could that be why? I mean, you're in Alberta also. You're like, many miles away from Atlantic Canada. Maybe that's something about the bugs. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, they seem to come in the soil and I'm an ounce of prevention person, right? Because some of those bugs that introduce can destroy your house plants, which you might like to have during the winter here, or introduce them in other ways that they can wreck your plant. But I like that the domes keep the moisture level kind of the same, right? So you're not going through that dry out, over water, dry out, over water.
Here's a tip about domes if anybody's getting into this year. Sometimes trays end up out on the deck or out in the yard because they gravitate slowly to get, the term is eluding me right now, but prepared for the weather ahead. Hardened off, that's the term.
Yeah.
So anyway, but these domes, if the sun shines directly on top of one of these domes, it will cook and kill everything in it in seconds, maybe minutes. It happened to me. So if those go outside, take the freaking domes off. That's a good tip for real.
Yep.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
And we'll probably, so with our gardening series, which is one of those things that's going to be ongoing. So we just thought we'd take an hour or two and talk today about what we're doing currently. And right now it's just sort of planning and getting seeds in. What I've planted mostly is like leeks, things that need a long grow time because our grow time here is so short. And then my insecticidal flowers, so all my marigolds and calendula, so that they're in bloom by the time I put them in so that they can do their job. And also my herbs, which I plant both as herbs and then also as insecticidal plants, right? Or what would you call like an
interplanting?
Companion planting, because those really strong smelling plants will often keep away bugs and some small critters. So I like those to be over ready, like ready to plant and robust by the time they go in my gardens with my other little seedlings. So I like to have those like my first trays. What you got? Oh, nice. Those are your leeks.
That's the shelf system. Yeah. Leeks. Hundreds of leeks. Yeah. That's what I got going on. Yeah. And here's the thing about the leek. And I love the leek, and I'll tell you why. Because this is a thing you can interplant in between all of your other crops. It takes hardly any space with that root system, not much. It keeps insects and bugs and other funguses away because it's an onion and they hate it. And other pests, like things that walk around and are furry, also may not come around because of that. So it's a great smell. What's the other thing it does? It doesn't give any shade whatsoever, basically. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about planting that too, like I would say this to people, when you're thinking about what you're planting and you're a new gardener, that keep it simple, stupid is so smart, right? Like you don't need to grow a really hard to grow in your area fancy brought back from the dead eggplant, right?
Yeah, I just say whatever granny grew here. That's what we will grow.
Yeah, so like go
Cabbage.
for the basics. Turnips, beets are easy to grow. Carrots are easy to grow, and things like leeks and onions are generally fairly easy to grow, right?
Technically, yes, but things can happen.
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
show this image instead of that one. We've looked at this one enough of your kitchen.
Oh, yep.
So put this one up. This is I sent. Can you see that image down there?
No.
Oh, I posted it in the chat below where the guests pop in. That doesn't matter. Maybe it'll show up there in a second. That doesn't matter. It just shows lettuces with a leek, then lettuce, then a leek, lettuce, then a leek. Just so if you have a little bit of space, you can still cram a lot in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also onions and leeks and stuff in their own patch, which also I will have. They're just like little pieces of grass with a foot in between, or not a foot. So you can plant other things in there while they're maturing, because they'll be growing all summer. These leeks. That's good real estate. The leek bed.
Yeah.
For other things. Anyway. Yeah.
And they keep for a long time, right? Like onions.
And leeks are awesome, and onions are hard to grow. So there's more about the leek.
But they're good, in terms of like when you're finishing up in the fall and the leeks are done, just finding a cold, dark place. The storage for leeks and onions, potatoes, turnips, carrots, beets, they can store for a long time with not a lot of fuss.
Yeah, that's true. And I like to just chop up the leeks and freeze them. So I have numerous bags of chopped leeks, and there's no blanching involved. It's just chop and straight into the freezer. So I like that aspect. And onions are freaking hard to grow. I don't know if anybody has trouble growing onions, but my God. What? Really? Jesus. You got a lot of sunlight, I think. That's why. You need a lot of sunlight.
Yeah. Alberta, it's cool, but it's got a lot of sunlight.
And that's the thing.
Yeah. So interesting. So I guess we're going through. So when you're deciding your seed selection, what you're going to grow, what we've said here is an ounce of prevention. Make sure your soil is clean and it's not introducing, bugs into your house, right? Then you've got your seeds. Decide what you want, and I am with you. Think about the space you have. Interplanting is good. Companion planting for prevention of outdoor bugs or critters getting in there, like leeks, marigolds, calendula. All of those plants are fantastic for keeping bugs away, like strong smelling herbs. You want to interplant that. And you want them to be robust by the time you plant outside, right? So you want them to be already strong smelling, so an older plant. And then we talked about keeping it simple. So if this is your first few years planting, it's almost like making any change. You want it to be small, tangible, and the goal's easy to attain, so you get some positivity behind you. So again, try and plant things for your area that are fairly easy. And I like what you said about being a pioneer about it. What did they use to grow, right? A lot of turnips because they stored, a lot of potatoes, a lot of beets, carrots, those sort of things. And lettuces of different types are usually fairly easy to grow too. Like those butterleaf lettuces are pretty easy to grow anywhere. I find onions are, you don't. I find leeks are hard, you don't. So look at what's in your area. And something I like to do when I'm at the seed store, the plant store, is find the nearest old lady and see what she's doing and maybe ask her some questions, especially like old farm ladies around here, man. They are just a plethora of good information. And there's lots of gardening groups showing up. And especially if they meet in person, it might be an opportunity for you to get some knowledge, but also to make some real life connections, where you can call somebody and ask or get some information from, which I think is really amazing.
Yeah, farmers markets are really good for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good idea. So stay organized, know what you have, right? Once you start, so this is one of my seed banks. I don't keep them all in the same place yet. So I've organized them by color, by what they are, but now also by date, because I think last year we talked a bit about, just in a private conversation, about how I didn't organize them by date, and then I had seeds that were well past the best before date, and that makes me mad to throw anything out. So now I'm trying to, like, with all my preps, we didn't do good with food or seeds, at making sure as we added new in, we took the old out. So it's really on my mind. So you should know what you have. You should be able to access it. It should stay organized, but you also have to store your seeds, right? You don't store them out in the sun. You can store, some of them can be in the freezer. A cold room with all your root vegetables isn't a bad area, but making sure that they're not getting moisture is important. So deciding as you buy seeds, switching out your old seed stock, putting your new stuff in, and then ordering it so you know what you actually have.
Yeah, for sure. That's good advice. My seed bag is like, it's in a box, but there's just a big mixture of all kinds of different crap, and I keep a lot of stuff. I should go grab it and show it to you. I might do that, but it's just a big old mess. But in some sense, I kind of know. Well, like, I dump it all out on the table, and then I lay it all out, and then you got to draw a map. This is the other thing. If you have that kind of space, or build boxes, like, just because it's bad soil out there, that's not an excuse. Build up. You can make a lasagna garden, which is just layers of shit until it makes a hill, and you bury stuff in it. I have tons of that. I have tons of those out there. I have rows of just chicken shit stuff thrown on top of the top of the ground. Lots of seaweed, stuff like that. And we do.
Yeah, it used to be a big thing to throw old, like, the fish when they wash up on shore in your garden in the east, right?
Yeah, you're in Alberta, so you don't have that great luxury. We drive onto beaches and load grain sacks and stuff and throw them into the car. And that goes everywhere. You make it into a liquid and spray it everywhere. Because this stuff has, like, I think it's 170 amino acids, minerals, blah, blah, blah. It's seaweed. It's loaded. And there's great results. Wow. Sometimes I just dump a sack into the compost with all the other stuff just to get things really, really going.
I feel really lucky. Alberta's got really good, even in the places that it doesn't have good soil, has better soil than a lot of places, right? That you could just, you're already starting ahead of the group, I think, too, so you can look at just amending your soil without actually having to make soil,
Yeah, build it. Just like I have 8 boxes outside. They're 8 feet long, 4 feet wide. Boom, boom, boom. I had to fill those with things.
Yep.
Yeah. And they're about knee high. So I forget the height. 2 feet high. 2 feet high.
So, and I found the combination of, because we turned some old analyzer boxes from my husband's work into raised gardens too. And that's a lot of soil. So combining the ideas of hugelkultur, which is growing over top of old. I
did hugelkultur in these beds I was telling you about. In these boxes, I threw in branches, roots, and old crap, hard stuff. Literal logs in some cases, little ones, and then on top, soil, straw, hay, etc. Because all that's going to break down when you introduce the microbes, which is compost, manure, etc. Seaweed. I'm still here.
Yep.
And that's the 2 big aspects of any garden. If you're going to build a garden, you need to know one thing about the soil. You get organic microorganisms, or OM. That's the things that are alive and consuming and pooping and creating the whole life culture in the soil. So OM and EM, effective microorganisms. OM is organic matter. I got them backwards. EM and OM. Just have that in your head. Because when you're throwing organic matter in the OM, you have to also throw in some sort of something that's going to consume it. Same thing applies with compost. Just imagine your garden is now also just a gigantic compost. You're going to feed it the same. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's an important tip. That changed the game for me. Just thinking like that. So lots of manure, lots of seaweed, lots of chicken shit. Every year something has to go in there. But also lots of hay or whatever to create that soil bed and compost, whatever you got. I even shovel in sand and shit sometimes just to really try to give it a whole biosphere. And that's what you want, the black soil, the living shit.
You need some drainage too, right? So that sand can be actually quite important.
It's huge. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, drainage is big. That's why it's good to build up. That's why raised beds, big ones. Just do it. It's the best way to go. And then for many respects. Before we even had a gigantic in-ground garden, there's a hugelkultur,
Yeah, so what I do is I actually filled the bottoms of my raised beds with firewood and sticks and things like that, just to save on the soil part of it, which is back-breaking to fill some of those. And that one was probably about as high as my waist because, like I said, it was an old analyzer box. And then you get the benefits of the hugelkultur, and it stays warmer. As that wood breaks down, it heats the whole bed, right? But then it provides nutrients, and then you use less soil, right? And it's not such a big thing. And over time, it develops your soil, like you said. So in your raised beds, again, back to the hugelkultur, filling the bottom of your raised beds with old firewood, branches, and sticks can save you money on buying, say, garden soil if you're going that way. It can also help you develop your soil long term. So I'd show that picture of having both the hugel beds within the raised gardens.
Firewood's a good one. Because I also, right now, actually this time of year, everything's covered in snow, many feet of snow for God's sake. But still, when I empty out the fireplace, I dump the bucket in one of the beds, spread it out. Then like a month later or 2 weeks later, whenever it happens to be, I change it. I go to the next one and dump it in there. Because that's good stuff too. They call it biochar. But basically that's what it is. It's rich in many things that elude me at the moment. But I don't do the science thing. I don't talk all science about gardening. I just can't. It's not how I think about it.
I use the char from my my fire pit too in my chickens, for my chickens. Like they have these little, I call them their sand boxes that I put, where it's sand and then diatomaceous earth and then also wood ash in there for them to dust bathe in, and it helps keep bugs down. So same thing for your garden. You can also add, you can compost, of course, your chicken shack in, but you want to be careful with that, right? You want to be careful with the amendments that you use in terms of dung. You want to make sure it's seasoned shit. You can get tapeworms and things that way.
Yeah, don't use fresh cow shit. Don't use it. And don't get like really sketchy cow shit. Here's the thing. Cows get a lot of deworming medicine. You don't want your soil to have this deworming shit in it. But I think you hear about that, but I think that's on a larger scale farm. Like I got 2 diplomas just from online learning about gardening and organic gardening. And you're learning a lot in this industrial mindset. Yeah. Always. So a lot of the gardening factoids, like crop rotation. Like I had 8 raised beds. This is the first garden before we get all the big stuff. And I thought, well, I'm supposed to rotate them. My friend was like, nah, not on this scale. So there you go. Listen to your friend who also grows shit. So you got to go with the wisdom of the area, like you said. Not think all scientific about it all the time. Although maps are good. And I'm bad with the maps, but I do try to do my best to draw one and really think it out more than, I'm just going to walk up there and think about where things
are. Just a free for all.
Yeah, my wife hates that I actually do that.
I think too, if we go back to the keeping it simple, if you're a new gardener, is a map would be good for you to lay out so that you can learn as you go, right? Like experience is always the best learner, and each property is different. Each space is different. Like, do you have evergreens that are around blocking the sunlight? Where are you able to put your gardens? Do you have an overabundance of rabbits? That might make things different. We talked earlier about, are you able to bend down readily or not, will be how tall you make your raised gardens, if you're doing raised gardens, that sort of thing. These are all things each person has to be able to assess, and you can assess that over time too on your own by knowing what you did the year before. I really wish, it's only been the last probably 5 to 10 years where I started keeping the seed packets and exactly what type of seeds I've planted, or if I've saved them myself, what was there, so that now I don't experiment a lot with like, oh, I'm going to get this different newfangled type of carrots that's short and fat. Nope.
Yep.
I want the ones that I've always grown that get really, really long and have the most food yield, right?
Yeah.
I'm done with that. That time of it, to me, you and I have talked about this. Nobody is prepping anymore. The crisis is here, right? So we're crisis management, which means when you plant, you want to get the best yield that stays around for the longest, that feeds your family for the longest, if you can, right? Not the newfangled short fat carrot that takes you a lot to grow and gives you a small yield, but it's really cool. We're past that. Mm-hmm. Stop that if you're doing that, right? Let's get the biggest, most robust carrot you can get for your area.
Yeah, the leeks I'm growing are the seeds that I kept 3 years ago. So this is the second or third iteration of the same seed, even the same leek. Because one leek will grow into a gigantic ball, like the size of a baseball, and then then there's thousands of little fronds, little flowers, which are just great. The bees go crazy.
Yeah.
Insects hate it, like a huge baseball-shaped flower of hundreds of flowers. Yeah. But then each of those hundreds of flowers turns into 3 seeds each. Yeah. So when that dries, you can crumble hundreds of seeds into your hand just from one leek going to seed. So that's great. I have like a whole sack of seeds. And this year, man, I got about 50 leeks that I didn't even harvest. I had so many. So those are all going to produce these gigantic flowers with hundreds and thousands of more seeds.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just the abundance is wonderful. The concept of that abundance to me is just amazing. And you know how much a leek is at the store? Imagine it.
Yeah, it's good to bring up like for like monetary savings. So the other thing that I think, again, around the keeping it simple is grow what you're going to eat. Like, how often do people go and get, that weird pumpkin, let's say, that only gets like this big, that's going to be for decoration? We're really past that. So you want to get a robust pumpkin that has a lot of meat on it that you can eat and that you can save. They say you're not supposed to can pumpkin, but the Amish say different, right? I think you can. So grow what you're going to eat, right? So if you're going to eat a lot of carrots, grow a lot of carrots. They're easy to store. They're easy to freeze. You can do a lot. You can keep them just with very little space in sort of damp sand too. So there's lots of different ways you can process carrots so you can have them over the winter. Potatoes.
They need soft soil. They need like real nice soft soil to get down in there. No rocks if you can manage it.
Yeah. Or you can grow them the first year so they soften your soil, right? Because that big, huge taproot will start doing things to your soil. So,
that's true.
That's interesting that you mentioned that too. That big, because, ultimately, when you have a field of dandelions, that's what they're doing with that big, huge taproot, is they're breaking apart soil. They're an indicator that your soil's too compact.
Oh, dandelions are good indicators, and they're great servants in the garden, and you can eat them.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, and also like canning, so you're saying which veg do you pick, and none of the weird fancy stuff, because we've also gotten out of that, because we just try to grow what we want, like you're saying.
Yeah.
But now we're thinking, we're eating a lot of our own canned stuff, pressure sealed vinegary bean shit. And she tried a few different experiments. One with zucchini, a bit of sweet with mustardy kind of style, dude. So now we're thinking like, well, what's the best for canning? Forget how cool it looks in the garden. But no, that's an interesting tip. Maybe take it seriously if that's what it's for. If you want to have fun, have fun. But my garden is a survival garden. That's how it was designed and thought of from the get-go. So it really is designed to produce a lot on a little bit of space, and be very storable and very delicious. That's it. That's all I think about it. Yeah, this garden. Although
I like what you say there too, because I had 240 pounds of tomatoes this year, and some of them got frozen. So I just took them from frozen, even if they were green, and then put them in the freezer so I didn't lose any. And I met a lady. She's like, "Oh, I just threw it all in the compost." I'm like, "I didn't. I found a green pasta sauce recipe to can and a green salsa recipe to can." And so also you got to think, I like what you say about, can I can it? Is it good fresh? But also, can I can it? Can I keep it for longer? And then open your mind. The one thing I do like about gardening is it makes you think about all the work it takes to make food. And after all that work, green tomato or not, I'm keeping that sucker and making something out of it, right? So
yeah, you're really onto something important here. And every time you eat that stuff that you grew yourself or whatever, there's always this mental thing that happens, which is probably really good for you. And it's hard to describe it, but the feeling like, wow, I grew this. That's what
it's an attachment. It feels like it's an attachment to that food, right?
Yeah, and now it's like, honey, everything in this soup is what we're eating in February that we grew. And it's like, wow, that's a good feeling. So that's nice too, right? So gardening, you get food, you get all this stuff, but you have to develop some skills. But there's like almost a spiritual side effect. Definitely a health one, and economy. We save so much money; it's unbelievable. We're hardly ever at the store because I got so much celery and leeks and carrots, which is the base of any soup, almost any dish. So I focus on that a lot. I have too much celery, first of all. Went too far. But anyway, so and there's a tip for the culinary thing. Like, what are you going to grow? What do you like? What's good? What do you need and what's good? Soup is good. And that's what you're going to be eating with most of the stuff that you grow, let's be honest. Celery, carrot, and onion or leek is needed in any great dish or soup or sauce. It's called mirepoix, that's what the chefs call it. People chop that shit all day in huge restaurants, that mirepoix mix.
Yeah. So you could have a base. So a great base, right? A great base. And also, like, if you're a bone brother, those are great things to add into your bone broth to provide more nutrition, right? The leeks, the onions, celery, carrots, and then you have a great, not just soup base, but a great medicine.
Yeah. Yep. So I like that. I like that tip.
So what have you started so far? You said you started leeks.
Got a lot of leeks going. I'm starting asparagus from seed, just a few dozen. No, maybe about 1 dozen. That's a whole other story. Asparagus. Some onions from seed, which is not something I usually like to do because it's very difficult to grow an onion in this climate. I'm gonna go for it. And also I planted a lot of marjoram, which will turn into a shrub.
Yeah.
Similar to oregano.
I love marjoram.
Oh, marjoram is amazing. Yeah. So let's grow in little trays. It's looks very cute back there. If I tilt my camera, you will see about a dozen rosemary plants. Right about here in a little tray. That's the mother. And down in the tray, maybe you can't see them too well. But these are cuttings from that very rosemary plant in the big bucket. And my wife snipped them, and you stick them in a glass of water. They grew roots. The watering can is in the way, but so now we're going to have 10 or 12 small rosemary bushes to start this year.
I really like that you bring that up because seeds aren't the only way to start plants, right? You can get cuttings from different other plants to start. Like one of the things is I saw a really nice sea buckthorn plant off the highway, and those are quite easy to take the cuttings from. They're great to make a hedge out of. They're deer resistant, they're drought resistant, they're great medicine, but they're like $20 to $30 per plant in the store, which becomes expensive if you're going to try and make a hedge or what have you. And I'm trying to build a living fence around my chicken coop of like it's going to be sea buckthorn and gooseberries to keep other predators out, but then the chickens can eat those fruit too, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So thinking about that, go take cuttings from things and start them in your house. Now's a great time to take those cuttings while the plant is dormant and have them come alive and root under in your house at this time of year, and then they'll be ready by the time spring rolls around.
Yeah. Make copies, clones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do that with a lot of things. Not all the plants you can do that with.
Nope.
Basil is one people don't know much. That you cut one branch, similar to this rosemary bush here. You cut one branch off of basil, stick it in a little glass of water, like a shot glass of water.
Mm-hmm.
That'll grow roots within days. And you can have hundreds of rosemary plants just from one basil.
Basil.
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, it grows like crazy, that stuff.
So do you bring so if basil is like that and rosemary is like that, you must bring your plants in the winter and then put them outside again in the summer?
We've had rosemary die out here in the winter. So yes, this year, my wife, she's like, this rosemary is coming inside for the winter.
Yeah.
That's where it's been.
So where I am, you can't, it's not a perennial here. But when I lived in New Zealand, you'd have these huge rosemary plants where they'd use the sticks as skewers, for like a shish kebab because they were so big, because they were perennial there too, right?
Cool. Yeah, Vancouver Island also, in the city of Victoria, BC, there are huge rosemary plants. That's very...
Oh, really?
It's a very warm climate for Canada. Uniquely and strangely warm, a little area there. Yeah. It's like zone 7 over there. Mm-hmm. That's another thing. If you're going to start a garden, what zone are you? And learn what that even means. It's a good start.
Yeah. And when you look up zones, you learn a lot about not only the area you're at, but you start seeing how these cities are changing our environment, that it actually changes the zone you're in. The heat suck from all the concrete and what have you changes your growing, but it also changes how much light will actually come down through the buildings to the soil. It's a very interesting observation in what cities actually do to the environment, because they're being touted, a 15-minute city, back to your upcoming show next week, is good for the environment. Then you don't have to do this and that, but those big forests of concrete and glass change everything.
Oh yeah, and the stew of biochemical energies coming off the towers and the cell phones and
Wi-Fi. Yep. Yeah.
All that.
I actually went early on in on the Human Responsibilities Tribunal. I had a lady on that fought the smart meters on her house or whatever, and we talked a lot about EMF and that electro smog. So just maybe I'll add that in later to the show notes. But it was really interesting about how much that can change your mind. Your environment, I guess, too, right? So the last thing I thought we could talk about is planting and growing for non-food items, because I am looking for a cold hardy short season loofah sponge. And I was thinking, we gotta talk about, because I make my own soaps and my own lotions, talk about growing things. So we've talked a little bit about growing different plants to maybe be an insect repellent, like marigold, like calendula, like herbs. But then there's also, I grow smokables, right? So I grow tobacco. I started with an heirloom tobacco seed. I had 5, now I have 3,000, which is really great. Nicotine is an important medicine, despite how it's been perverted by tobacco companies. You know, if you are a cannabis grower, the stuff you're buying now in stores is so, well, one, it's so strong, but it's so overwrought genetically. It's been so altered and sprayed with so much stuff and growing in such a weird environment that you should think about your own. And then usefulness like loofah and gourds. But then I was also thinking, just like with my chickens, it's not bad to grow what your animals eat, even if you don't.
Yeah, I want to grow sunflowers just for that reason. I want to grow a lot of sunflowers, but you need a certain infrastructure for that over here. A fence to hold them up, whatever. It's a good time for that. Like trellising is another thing if you get serious about gardening. Get used to make a good trellis the first time. Yeah, good spikes in the ground, you know, strong. You know, use some carpentry, some wire instead of string. You know, I've had many cherry tomato walls fall down.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, but now I was pounding posts in the ground last year, so they won't be falling over this year. Yeah, trellising. I went on a tangent for where I started from.
We started growing non-consumables or not consumables for, I mean, loofah sponges, especially if you're gonna have, like, loofah isn't actually a sponge, it's actually a squash, and then it's how you process it that makes it that exfoliant. So things like that, thinking like different gourds that you could sell or make pottery out of, or just that you maybe want for some sort of decoration that you can put out that maybe like to attract other animals, or maybe your chickens want, or might be good for if you have pigs or what have you.
Right, so sunflowers. That's right. Yeah, sunflowers. That's what I started with, like with the chickens. That's a really good one though. Grow grains and stuff. Why not? In fact, we bring in a lot of hay and straw into the property, and you know this probably too. Little seeds of all kinds of interesting things.
Yeah.
From the farms and stuff, end up there. And I had like, I'm like, honey, is this barley? What the fuck is this shit growing all around here?
Yeah.
So sometimes I collect those seeds. So I have a whole bunch of all these different types of grains that I believe are breads and cereals.
Yeah.
For later use, maybe. For emergency.
It's okay. It's okay to chaos or guerrilla garden too. Like if you don't have a plot of land, get a Jerusalem artichoke, which is a perennial root vegetable that actually kind of looks like a sunflower and how it grows above ground, and plant it somewhere and let it go, and you'll know that there's a food source there. Or I like to, whatever seeds fall out of my seed bank, just cast those around, or just cast like the grains, like you're saying, around, and just let it go. Find some heritage seed of grains that could go around your property. That's not such a bad idea. Grass does nothing for you. Natural grasses might, right? Like there are natural grasses. I live in the grassland, the Aspen Parkland here, right? And we let our paddock go. We didn't have anything up there. And there's literally natural grasses that were up to my shoulders, you know, and it's interesting to see what happens and what it brings in. But it's also great that we let it rest so that when we have animals on there, that they have a more robust food source.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to think about there. Broadcasting seeds. Yeah, that comes to mind. I do that a lot. Early in the year, I mix different lettuces and mustards and edible green things that are cold hardy. And I do go outside and I do start to toss that around in choice locations just to get things going. Because you never know, some of that's going to take off. Some of that's going to take off. That's right. And then you weed out the other shit. Yeah. And here's a good way to also do that. Say you're growing a tomato. There's a lot of space at the bottom of a tomato. You can sprinkle a mixture of little lettuce seeds around and pull out the ones that don't do well, and you'll have like lettuce down in there too.
Yeah. I think that's something I failed to do that we can maybe talk about in July, is actually thinning out, especially root vegetables. So I think I've failed to take the time to do that, and it's really affected my yield. So I'm going to put that. I'm trying to keep an ongoing list of things we can do in time, and I think we're hoping to bring you more food production, not just gardening ideas over time, because where I live, man, there is a plethora of wild berries from July to September that you can not have to grow, not put any energy into, and then have such a wonderful food source without doing anything. So again, that's back to sort of that chaos or guerrilla gardening or wild sourcing food as well. So today we kind of covered an ounce of prevention in terms of soil health and making sure you have clean soil before you introduce it to your house. We talked about keeping your seeds organized and making sure that in your prep you're using the old before the new. We talked about keeping it simple, starting in a small area, like any goal setting, where it's tangible, where you know you're going to grow and use the food so that you have that positivity of it. We talked about thinking about planting things that might not necessarily be for food, that might be used for medicine and or your foods or your animals. Talked about not just growing from seed, but from cutting. So this is all great for the new gardener. We said we were going to keep it to about an hour. So let's give you the last word. What else do you think? A new gardener comes to you and says, David, this is the year I'm doing it.
Well, with the survival garden model, I've thought of something to do, which is to have decoy plants around. Because here's the thing: if the roving bands of cannibals come to steal your food, because let's face it, if there's a Carrington event or things go to Mad Max level, they'll be like, "Oh, doesn't that guy have a gigantic garden and greenhouse down the street?" They'll show up here, and I've thought about all the ins and outs of that possibility during COVID. When we thought that was a very real possibility, and so I thought, yeah, that's smart, because there's things that will be around and they go, "What's that?" And I say, "That's poison. That's poison."
Yeah,
I got weird shit growing. Long story short, around the edges and out there, and the animals eat it. The wild animals eat it. It's a decoy from the good shit.
Yeah.
So decoys is another thing that's interesting.
Okay.
Also, to plan.
Yeah.
On the outside of your fences. Yeah. Anyway, that's my final thought, I guess. I'm trying to be funny about it, but yeah. Do your best.
The one thing too that you mentioned was infrastructure. So thinking about that now, like as you talked about trellis, but you also talked about fencing, and you also talked about decoys. So I think that's in the next couple of months, let's do something on the actual infrastructure. And I like what you said about taking the time, particularly for trellising, to make sure it's stable. I mean, my tomatoes went overboard and they were falling over and they were falling in, and I couldn't get in there. And then, when I did end up harvesting and pulling the plants, there was a lot of stuff that rotted that I could have ate, but I couldn't even see, I couldn't even get in there. So I like what you say about that infrastructure. And I think maybe that's the next month when we do this again. Let's start at infrastructure and lasagna gardening. And one thing I wanted to talk about was cardboard. Start saving it now. Cardboard, the unsung hero of every gardener and landscaper. That's easy to get. It's free and can really save you a lot of time and energy and enhance your soil. So that's what I wanted to say to people. Save your cardboard now. Learn why next month.
Yep, I think that's a good wrap up of the start to the gardening concept, I guess.
Yeah. So again, you've got next Sunday. You've got an interview coming up about 15-minute cities, and I have an interview coming up next Sunday too with Andre about the reclamation of the family, which is reclamation is a word I think we need to bring back, like soil reclamation, land reclamation, family reclamation, the reclamation of our soil, our souls, really.
And skills. And you can do it attitude, for God's sake. Jesus. Yeah. We just talked 2 hours on my other show about this like techno-nihilistic culture. Gardening is the cure for all that. Oh, yeah.
Well, I think it helps. Like, I'm so glad we did this today, because this week I've been thinking, is my whole life just going to be fighting the infiltration of municipalities, fighting for the laws to be right across the board, fighting to try and stay off technology, fighting to, is my whole life going to be fighting? And today I really looked forward to talking about planting and growing, because that is a reclamation project. It is something where we actually grow it, that's tangible, that we can see, that anybody can do for themselves, even in small spaces to small scale. Even if you live in an apartment, you can have a few pots outside where you can grow a few tomatoes and a few lettuces. Start there. Great.
Yeah. Gardening grows you also.
Yeah, I like that.
That's my final thought.
I like it. So thanks for joining us today.
And get some knee pads. Get some knee pads.
Yeah. Or one of those, like, those knee, or learn to squat. I mean, the yogis say that's great. It's great for your spine. I've been really, really thinking about my posture and how I lean back and do this. And it's because of screens now. I even sit like this when I'm driving. I roll my head back on to my neck, and how bad it is too. So I think you can use gardening to practice yoga poses. That's all I'm saying.
That's true though. Yeah, I do garden kind of slowly anyway, because my body's no good.
So
yeah,
mine either. So thanks for joining us, everybody, today. I hope that some of these how-tos that we're going to be putting out about gardening and food, and we'll be talking about wildcrafting and liberation of wild plants onto your land. So exploring sort of all ideas once a month for food and what you can do for yourself. Because again, this isn't a nihilist channel. This is the channel about reclamation of your soul, of old skills and things you can do for yourself without permission. You don't need permission to do this from the powers that be, and how good it can feel to have your feet back under you again, literally.
Oh yeah, there's 100 wild edible things in the forest right near you, no matter where you are and anywhere in North America. That's a fact, and I can bring the details.
Yeah, that's right. So thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited. Hopefully you'll stay off after we end, and we can have a quick chat, see where each other's at. Join us again next Sunday on our other channels, and we hope you guys are all doing well. This is the beginning of building your own raft. We're really glad you joined us. So thanks again.
Adios.